In the 1980s, the streets of Yugoslavia were policed by a force known as the Milicija, a common sight in every republic, maintaining law and order. They were officers, not soldiers. Yet, just a few years later, these same men would be caught in a storm of ethnic violence, civil war, and brutal conflict. This is the story of how the Milicija, Yugoslavia's everyday police, transformed into a paramilitary force at the heart of the Yugoslav wars. Before we dive into the chaos of the 1990s, let's rewind. The Milicija was the Yugoslav police force, a pillar of law and order in Tito's socialist state, established to serve the needs of a multi-ethnic nation. The Milicija wasn't just a regular police force. They were deeply tied to the Communist Party, ensuring the system ran smoothly. Their job: everything from crime control to border security, and maintaining public order at a time when the Yugoslav Federation seemed stable. But beneath the surface, tensions were bubbling. Ethnic divisions, nationalism, and the slow collapse of socialism set the stage for what was about to unfold. Yugoslavia's stability was largely thanks to the leadership of Josip Broz Tito, the charismatic leader who held the federation together. But when he died in 1980, the cracks began to appear. The economy weakened, ethnic tensions grew, and nationalist leaders in places like Croatia, Serbia, and Bosnia started gaining popularity. The Milicija, once a united force, began to splinter along ethnic lines. As each republic became more independent, the question arose: who were they really loyal to? The federal government in Belgrade, or the new nationalist leaders who promised to protect their people? As the country began to tear apart, so did the Milicija. Each republic, Croatia, Slovenia, Serbia, Bosnia, started to build their own forces, transforming the once unified police into armed units ready for war. The Milicija was no longer just enforcing the law. They were being drawn into ethnic conflict. Take Croatia, for example. In 1991, after declaring independence, Croatian militia units quickly found themselves in open conflict with the Yugoslav People's Army and local Serb militias. What started as policing riots and protests rapidly escalated into full-blown warfare. The same thing happened in Bosnia, where the militia fragmented into Bosniak, Serb, and Croat factions, each fighting for control. One of the most tragic examples of the militia's transformation was during the siege of Sarajevo. Once tasked with keeping order in Bosnia's capital, the Bosnian militia became soldiers almost overnight. They defended the city against Serb forces during the nearly 4-year-long siege, while Serb militia and paramilitaries bombarded the city from the hills. Imagine this: officers once responsible for directing traffic and investigating crimes now found themselves defending civilians from sniper fire, artillery bombardments, and constant shelling. The Milicija didn't just police Sarajevo, they became part of its survival. However, not all Milicija units were defenders. In many cases, they were perpetrators. Throughout the wars, the Milicija, particularly Serb forces in Bosnia and Croatia, were accused of participating in some of the worst atrocities. They were deeply involved in ethnic cleansing campaigns, forced expulsions, and even massacres. The most infamous example is the Milicija units operating in places like Srebrenica, where they worked alongside paramilitary groups to commit war crimes against Bosniak civilians. What had started as a police force meant to serve the public had become, in many cases, tools of nationalist violence. As the conflict dragged on, the international community took notice. The Milicija, which had once been seen as a legitimate police force, became synonymous with chaos, brutality, and ethnic conflict. International tribunals, including the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, would later charge many former Milicija commanders with war crimes. After the wars ended in the mid-1990s, the remnants of the Milicija were dissolved or restructured. Each new country, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, established new national police forces, leaving the Milicija behind as a dark memory of a divided and violent past. Today, the legacy of the Milicija is complicated. For many, they are remembered as protectors, men who defended their cities and families in times of unimaginable horror. But for others, they symbolize the brutality of the Yugoslav wars, the ethnic cleansing, the sieges, and the violence that tore communities apart. What was once a unified police force became a weapon of war. And as we look back at the Yugoslav wars, the story of the Milicija reminds us how quickly institutions of peace can be turned into instruments of conflict. The Milicija may no longer exist, but their story is a crucial part of understanding the Yugoslav wars, a story of transformation, of conflict, and of the fine line between order and chaos. The police force meant to protect became warriors in a war no one was prepared for. Thank you for watching and subscribe for more.